Welcome to episode 106 of the Epilogue Lady podcast. My name is Bente and I'm coming to you from Vesterålen, northern Norway, where I live with my husband, my oldest son and 3 cats. You can find me on Instagram as Arctic Crafts, on Facebook as Arctic Crafts by Bente, and on Ravelry as Arctic Crafts 65. There is also a group on Ravelry for this podcast where you can participate in make-alongs and the occasional giveaway. There is also a Ko-fi page for this podcast where you can help contribute to this podcast and me. Most of it is for shipping off prices and purchasing stuff for prices. If you want to donate the price for the podcast, I would be really thankful because I more or less do make-alongs all through the year. And speaking of make-alongs, let's just go through the winners of the Arctic Summer of Socks to get that out of the way, and then we'll talk a bit about the new make-along starting today afterwards. So I've drawn the prices for the Arctic Summer of Socks. First of all, the price for Instagram was a pattern by Stone Knits, and I've contacted the winner on Instagram, so please, I haven't heard from her yet, but hopefully I will. And the rest of the winners, I'll just get out my notes and I'll show you the prices as we go. The first prize is a bag by the Tangled Skein CA and a skein of yarn from Holiday Yarns, and both of these are donated by my good friend Sue, Crafty97, and she will be shipping this off to the winner, and the winner is Sandra GHP 60. I was almost going to spell your name in Norwegian, but it's Sandra JHP 60, and all of these winners have been notified on Ravelry also. And Sue locked out because Sandra is from Canada and so is Sue. So Sue only has to pay for domestic shipping. You locked out there. The second prize was a skein of Arctic Crafts. This is my Resilience colorway, and this is, and the one who won that is Diane from Minneapolis. The third prize is a bag from Narwhal's Creations. It's a cute little bag, big enough for a sock project, and a stitch marker by Gibberusus. It's a star, and the bag is by Narwhal's Creations, donated by Lorna. And this is going to Nicole in Saskatchewan. And there was also, all of those prizes were for finished objects. The first number that led to an entry without an FO picture, just a comment on somebody else's picture. I drew this skein. It's a skein of or you will call this a ball probably. It's a Raggi Tencel sock yarn, and this is a DK weight, and that goes to Nancy McKnitter. That's Nancy in Ontario. So those were the prices for the Arctic Summer of Socks. And before we start talking about the spooky Mal, I realize I haven't talked about what I'm wearing. I'm wearing my Maema by, I probably should have checked the designer before I started recording, but I'll put it up on the screen. I actually forgot who designed this. And the yarn is hedgehog fibers and the colorway is heron. So that's what I'm wearing. That out of the way, we can talk about the Spooky Mal 2023 that started today. And the rules are really simple. Any craft, any project. The only thing I want for the entry is that it's either Halloween themed, spooky themed, or harvest themed. So if the colorway is name is inspired by anything spooky, witchy, supernatural, anything like that, or the project name is inspired by that, or I would even consider if you are knitting or crocheting something you want to use as either part of or as a Halloween costume, that is allowed. I realize that may be not knitting or crocheting, it could be sewing. Is that how you pronounce it? Again, English is my second language and my brain isn't working today. But this is a make-along, so if you make a handmade costume for Halloween, go ahead, enter it. And again, this is going to run until Halloween, so midnight on Halloween I'm closing the thread and I'm drawing the prices November 1st. And I haven't got any prices. I know I'm going to get a bag, Halloween inspired bag by the Tangled Skein CA, and that's all I have so far. There's also a make-along, the Tangled Skein CA, her podcast, Distant Stitches, that she hosts with her good friend Liz, and My Yarny Corner by Alex in England. Both of these are podcasts. They are cooperating on something they're calling the Spooky Feet make-along, and that's also running until Halloween. So double dipping is encouraged. Do I have to say anything else about that? I don't think so. As I said, I haven't got any prices figured out yet. But I'm going to do like I normally do, because hopefully somebody is donating a prize. Something might pop up before I draw the prices, so I'll draw the prices like I did today. I just went through my prize bin. I had a couple of prizes ready and the rest I found in my prize bin, and that's what I'm going to do for the Spooky Mal too, I think. So that's the Spooky Mal starting today, and there is there's one thread on Ravelry for both finished objects and chatter. And as I did this time, the first chatter entry I pick when I pick winners will get a prize. And I think I will do the same as I did this time. I will draw 3 prizes and 1 chatter prize, and then a prize on Instagram. And one of the prizes I know is going to be a pattern by Stone Knits, again, for the Spooky Mal. She has kindly donated a pattern prize for that make-along as well. Speaking of Stone Knits, again I have an FO I can't show you because the pattern is being released September 5th. I was allowed to sneak peek you a bit, so if you check my Instagram feed, you will find a close-up of that project, so you get to see a bit of it, but not all of it. And I'm also working on a whip. That's a test knit. I had to I got tendonitis in my left arm, so I had to stop knitting small circumference knitting. I have 2 other sock projects that I'm not working on because I struggle with fine needles. These 2 are magic loop though, so they're a bit better to knit on. The problem is I knit the first sock in the test knit. I can say it's a pair of socks because Stone Knits is basically mostly socks. The first sock I knit on a 9-inch circular, and I know from experience that my gauge changes a bit on magic loop and DPNs compared to 9-inch circulars, so I can't knit the second sock on magic loop. So I have to wait until my hand and arm feels a bit better before I can start the second sock. But As long as I finished one sock, that was good enough for Charlotte, and thankfully it was, because I'm not sure I'm going to be able to knit the second sock before the deadline. Not sure why I told you all about that, but here goes. My podcast is more or less a stream of consciousness, because my notes are really, really spare. I do again, my brain isn't working today. I don't do a lot of notes. This is what my notes look like today. There's only 8 lines of text in my notes. So that's why I often say, hopefully I haven't forgotten something. But since this is a knitting podcast, let's talk about a little bit about knitting. I haven't got any FOs, because I have picked up a big project and I can't knit a lot these days. So if you remember, I had picked up UFO, a hibernating whip, that I decided to finish, because there's a couple of sweaters I want to knit for myself, but I decided I wanted to finish a sweater for hubby first. This is the second sleeve. And this is the first sleeve. This isn't too painful to knit on, because they're bigger needles. It's 3.75 needles. And this is the back. And this is the front. The yarn is Highland Sport, dyed by me. And I wanted to finish this before I cast on any sweaters for myself, because, as I said, I have a couple of sweaters I want to knit for myself, but I decided to finish this one for hubby first. So that's what I've been knitting on the last few days, and I have 2 sock projects. I already showed you this before. This is the first sock, and this is what happens when you decide to use up an entire skein, 50-gram skein of turtle pearl. Because when you buy sock yarn from Turtle Pearl, you get 2 50-gram skeins, so you can make 2 identical socks. And this is what happens. I did this toe up and knit until I ran out of yarn. And this is how far I've gotten on the second sock. So now this is also on 9-inch circulars now, so I've had to put that one away. And again, I have to do it on 9-inch circulars because that's what I knit the first sock on. And my gauge changes, so they wouldn't look the same if I changed it. So, and I'm also knitting a pair of socks on Magic Loop. And I started this a few days early, but this is my Spooky Mal socks. Hopefully I'll get to finish them before Halloween. Hopefully I get to knit 2 pairs of socks before Halloween, hopefully. This is commercial sock yarn. It's from the Halloween collection by Hobby. I have another skein or ball of this, so I might knit another pair of socks. I have a pattern by Kay Jones of the Bakery Bears I want to test. I want to try out. I want to test how that looks on self-striping. This is the Heel Toe Do-Si Do pattern by the Crazy Sock Lady. It's a fun variation when you're knitting self-striping, because knitting a vanilla sock can sometimes be boring. It's not as boring when you knit with self-striping, but anyways, vanilla socks are a bit boring. So I'm going to test out, I think I have some Halloween. I might have a Halloween sock set, I'm not sure. I'm going to check my sock sets. I have a special tub of yarn that's only sock sets and self-striping, and I'm going to go through that. I seem to remember I have some Halloween sock yarn hand-dyed. I'm not sure, but I think any of the D&D inspired yarn from the Condor Craft might actually work. Some of it might actually work, and I might have some. I'm going through my hand-dyed stash to see if I have any other Halloween yarn other than self-striping commercial. Anyways, those are my whips. Again, not a lot of knitting, and especially when when I got tendinitis, but I can spin, and I've been spinning. I just finished a bobbin, and it's getting better. It's still thick and thin. There you can see it. I did skein up my first attempt yesterday. I didn't bring the skein with me, but the next time I would have skeined up this as well, so I can show you the difference, probably. I want to be able to spin thinner than this, but as is, I'm not going to ply this. But I was thinking, please let me know in the comments below, is it a good idea to practice plying with commercial single ply? Because I have some Drops Delight, and that's a single ply. Is it a good idea to use that to practice plying? Because I want to practice plying before I try to do so. But then again, I have no problem using single ply yarn for stuff. I don't have to ply the yarn, but I think if you ply it, it doesn't. I'm not sure what you call it. I think they're talking about the balance of the yarn, because when I skeined up the first attempt of spinning that I skeined up yesterday, it twisted. The skein got twisted, and I think if you ply it, you get the twist the other way, so you balance the yarn. I think that's what they call it, to balance the yarn. So I should probably ply, but I want to be able to spin thinner first. I want to at least spin consistent, about 4-ply thickness, so I can get a DK when I ply them. But I'm not there yet. But I did dye some fiber yesterday. I didn't dye variegated, I just dyed semi-solid fibers. This is teal green, and this is a gold. I'm not going to ply these. That might actually turn into a green for all I know, but I'm going to ply these single ply. I'm not going to use them in the same project either, I think, but it's just so... what I have figured out is that I find it easier actually to spin from dyed fiber than from undyed fiber, because it's not that slippery, if you know what I mean. But I have lots of undyed fiber, and I was thinking I wanted to try to spin undyed and dye the yarn afterwards. That's also something I want to try. But now I have 200 grams of fiber that I can spin, so I'm probably going to spin today after I finish edit this. Because I really enjoy the spinning, and I can spin now, even though it's not painful to spin. So I might do some knitting later today, but I think I'm going to spin mostly. I really enjoy the spinning, even though it doesn't break as much anymore, because I've figured out yesterday I suddenly got too much twist in the yarn again, and then I had to check on YouTube. If it's over twisting, does that mean too little tension or too much tension? And I don't have all those things in my head yet. I have to check YouTube all the time when I'm spinning if I run into problems. So I I have looked up spinning a lot on YouTube lately, and there's a lot of really good tutorials on for troubleshooting and everything on YouTube. So don't be afraid to try spinning, because there's a lot of tutorials that I really like. That's what I had to talk about today. That's the thing, if you have a knitting podcast but haven't done a lot of knitting, there's not a lot to talk about. There's not much life stuff to talk about either. We're back to the normal schedule. Hobby is working, and I'm at home, and I'm not working anymore. So that's a bit of a change for me. I'm not. I did dye fiber yesterday, but only a little and only for myself. I'm going to dye yarn at some point this autumn, because I want a sweater quantity for myself and I want to dye up some yarn for prices. But I have 3 sweater quantities, I think it is, in stash, so it's no rush to dye up that sweater quantity. I might perhaps do it as part of Vlogtober, because I'm considering doing Vlogtober. I think I'm going to do Vlogtober. I just have to figure out how to get it into my daily schedule, and if I'm going to use the camera or my mobile phone for the recording. I might do most of the recording on my phone, because I haven't gotten used to taking the camera with me. I tend to leave it at home when we're off somewhere. I have to get used to taking it with me, I guess, when I'm going to record. I have found something that I can use to hold the camera in my hand when I'm recording. That's making it a bit easier to record on the go, in the car. So when I bought this real expensive camera, I was planning on using it more than just every other Friday. And that's something else I've been considering as a trial run, doing the podcast more often. But then again, when I'm not doing a lot of knitting, I need the 2 weeks to make sure I have something to show you. I know a lot of podcasters are talking about this. Actually, I've seen more of it the last few months, that it feels like a chore to knit, because you feel like you have to have something to show in your podcast. So the knitting gets to feel like work, and it feels like a chore. And hopefully I never get to that point, because I really enjoy knitting, and I'm knitting for me. I show it to you, but I'm knitting for me. And that means sometimes my podcast won't have a lot of knitting in it. Sometimes I might have 2 finished sweaters. Other times I only have sock whips, depending on how much knitting I've done. And now that I have the tendonitis, I can't knit a lot. So that means I'll have more spinning probably than knitting to show you next time. But hopefully my tendonitis will get better, and I'll be able to show you my stone knits finished object in 2 weeks. That's being released on September 5th. I'll be posting a picture of proper picture of the project on September 5th when she releases it. And that's it, I think. I'm just going to edit this, and this is going to be one of those short but sweet episodes. But I'll be doing Vlogtober. I'm not doing podcasts probably during October then, because I'm doing Vlogtober, and I'll be showing you my knitting as I go during October. So September being my birthday month, I'm going to cut myself some slack. So I'll be knitting and spinning and not doing a lot of sensible stuff, even though that's sensible. But it's my birthday month and I'm cutting myself some slack. Not planning on you spending a lot of money though, especially not on yarn, because I'm saving all my yarn money for Unravel in February. I still haven't found an advent calendar, yarn advent calendar in Norway, so that's out of the question. And I figured I might as well spoil myself a bit and get a Bird and Blend tea advent calendar. But no, it's really, really expensive when everything is added to it. So that's out of the question as well. So it's going to be a boring December without any advent calendar. I'm going to get a tea advent, a cheap one. I'm okay, so I'm turning 58 the end of the month, but I'm a bit childish, so I want an advent calendar. So tea it is, and maybe chocolates. Anyways, I'm going to stop babbling now, and I'm going to stop this, and I hope you have a really nice weekend, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye bye.